Every year, cities and towns on rivers have to worry about the possibility of flooding or deal with the reality of flooding. It's a fact of life for river communities. They have to plan for it, they have to know what they can do, they have to know what they can't do, and they have to be thinking about what they might do differently in the future. Because being a river city is not just about the romantic past, it's about the economy, the environment, the people now and in the coming years. In some cases, for some towns, it's about survival. A group of about 20 Mississippi River mayors was in Washington, D.C. in early March for meetings at the White House with members of Congress and with the Army Corps of Engineers, pushing for a nearly $8 billion infrastructure bill that would protect one of this country's most important economic assets, the Mississippi River Corridor. Those mayors are among the 88 mayors from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico who belong to an organization that was started 7 years ago. It's run out of an office in downtown St. Louis. Colin Wellenkamp is the executive director of the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. So you've got twin cities, right? So you've got in New Orleans, St. Louis, Memphis. You've got the medium-sized cities like Quad Cities.
Dubuque,
sure.
Alton, Quincy, Cape Girardeau.
When you're dealing with such a huge region, big cities, small cities, northern, midwestern, southern, you get a lot of different political views. Do the divisions that we see played out publicly, are those less intense when the mayors get together to talk about the issues they're facing?
It is. We tend to not get bogged down in the partisanship that can happen on the national level with a lot of these issues.
How is the climate change discussion going on within these Mississippi River cities?
Mayors may talk about climate risk differently back home, depending on where they are along the corridor. But when it comes down to it, we know that we are a significant climate risk region. We've sustained $200 billion in disaster impacts since 2005 in the Mississippi River Corridor. That is a significant cost, and that is just actual losses, not the ancillary costs or the ripple effects that come with those losses. So record floods, record droughts, record storm events.
And that's happening no matter what you think about policy or cause.
Call it what you want. You know, if you don't want to call it climate change, fine. The point our mayors make is this is happening and we are being impacted by it. We need to address it. And a lot of our solutions that we are very excited about are natural ones, because habitat and natural infrastructure like wetlands and marshes and forests can handle these problems and these issues a lot more cheaply and have ancillary benefits like cleaning your water than brick and mortar infrastructure can.
Is this what people were feeling 6 or 7 years ago, or has that evolved? Has there been a greater acceptance of the need to do things and maybe the way to do things?
It's been an evolution. Yeah, it has evolved over time. I think as these disaster impacts come hot and heavy again and again, they're very persistent, they're getting worse. The time between them is lessening. That these perceptions have grown with those impacts. We really don't get bogged down much in the politics. In fact, our association is fiercely bipartisan. And I would say that the Mississippi River runs purple in terms of political orientation. We have a mix of everything. You know, from Minnesota down to Louisiana, you go through some significant political cross currents, to use lots of water puns. But at a practical level, all of those currents are calm because we've got to get to solutions. Because the mayor has to go home, meet with the folks in the grocery store, see them at the gas station, everywhere in their town. And they've got to be able to have an answer for them. And the answer can't be, this party's doing that, this party's doing this. people just want to know what's the solution? What are we going to do to solve the problem?
Can you give me a sense of the top priorities or the top issues that the communities up and down the river are facing or promoting?
Sure. So when you're elected to be mayor, right, the folks that elect you really are looking for you to expand the tax base, preserve and add jobs, grow the economy, and don't do those things by compromising the things that people care about, right? Clean water, clean air, green space. And when you look at the economy of the Mississippi River, it's huge. There are 8 separate economic sectors operating off the river that need the river to operate. The 3 biggest in order are manufacturing, tourism, and agriculture. So they're interested in the infrastructure and the jobs and the economic components that feed into each of those economies. The agricultural piece is huge and growing. The whole global commodity supply chain is a very big player for the Mississippi River. In fact, from what we've seen, the Mississippi River is the biggest water basin player in the world when it comes to the global commodity supply chain.
So we're talking corn and beans in the region. A lot of that stuff goes to the river.
It does. Not only is it irrigated off the river to grow it, it's put on the river to move it to market.
There's trade issues, tariff issues, markets being closed or reduced or shut down. This is something these mayors care about? A
lot, yeah. It's a big issue for us.
I think the first time I heard you speak, you gave this a context that I think me and a lot of other people never thought about. This is one of the great rivers of the world. We know that. We know it's the Mississippi, but of course we take it for granted that we're here. But you put it in with the Rhine and the Danube and the Volga and the Yangtze and the Amazon and the Nile. We're up there.
We discovered shortly after this association formed that there was a robust international river community that had been talking, meeting, coming up with solutions for years. We just hadn't been at the table. Not that the Mississippi River wasn't invited, just nobody went. So our mayors really wanted to change that. Turns out the Mississippi River is the number one commodity producing river basin on earth. Number 2 is the Yangtze, and then the ones that you mentioned are the other major food-producing river basins. They've been talking. They've been coordinating. We just haven't been part of that conversation until now. Now we are, and now we're a valued member of that robust community.
I would think we'd have a lot to offer as well as a lot to learn.
A lot to learn. We've learned a lot from Mexico. Mexico really does a lot with very little water. The Rhine and the Danube, a lot of these rivers in the world go through multiple countries. The Mississippi River, we're fortunate. We have the whole thing right here at home. But 10 nations, 15, 20 nations may comprise a river basin in other parts of the world. The Rhine Danube river basins have been very advanced in their approach to flood mitigation, resiliency, and sustainability. We have learned a ton just in a short time of exposure and the things that they have been able to do. And a lot of their solution platform is natural infrastructure, is natural assets that they let nature take off a lot of the cost and the maintenance and the operation of the water regulatory services that they need. Rivers are the most used source of fresh water on earth because they flow through communities, right? Everybody gets a straw. But they only comprise 0.006% of the freshwater supply on the planet. So it is absolutely vital that these rivers are sustained, or we will see a significant collapse in the world's ability to move, produce, manage, deliver commodities to everybody. We happen to be number 1 in that space. So the voice of the Mississippi River corridor is absolutely essential.